first item is to go over our minutes from our January 9th meeting. You gentlemen, let me know when you're ready to move on that, please. Commissioner Johnson?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, do I hear a second? Second. All in favor? Minutes are approved. Okay, next item is public commentary. Please raise your hand if you wish to speak. You have 3 minutes. Let us know who you are and where you're from. Who would like to speak first? Yes.
Debbie Holcomb, Sugar Creek area. I know that it's not a question and answer session, but I'm hoping that this time it'll be a little different because I have a point of order I would like to bring up. Several meetings ago, Mr. Johnson had made a motion to discuss the county attorney representing all 3 board members instead of being at the pleasure of the chairman. Mr. Sosby seconded the motion. Mr. Helton refused to recognize the motion because it was not on the agenda. Then there was a standoff on adjourning the meeting, and at that time, Mr. Sosby decided that he would second the motion to adjourn if that was put on the agenda at the following meeting. The next meeting occurred and it wasn't on the agenda. Mr. Johnson asked at the end of the meeting, wasn't it supposed to be on the agenda? Mr. Sosby said he had decided that they were going to postpone it till after the budget, and then it would be on the agenda. Last meeting, it wasn't on the agenda, and my mother has read me the agenda items for this meeting, and again, it's not on the agenda. I've been to each meeting since that was brought up, and to my knowledge, that point of order has not been acknowledged, postponed, settled, whatever. So I would like to know, when is that item going to be on the agenda and when are we going to deal with it? Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to be next? Yes, sir.
My name is Joe Webb. I live in the Dial area of Fannin County. I have a problem in that a year ago we brought up to the new chairman that we need a single document for local legislation. That has not been produced yet, and the county's website literally has a wrong document on it at this point. In a public records request, I clarified this back in December. On to other points, there are 3 points of law at the budget meeting in December. One was acknowledged, and that's when the chairman literally changed the meeting, not have a meeting at the end of the month, and he did agree that it was not his prerogative to do that, it was the prerogative of the whole board. However, that said, the chairman does control the agenda, not the meeting dates. Also at that meeting, there was a long discussion during the budget areas on the line items of a judge's budget. Very specifically in the local legislation, which I mistakenly call the charter every now and then, there is a very direct line item in it saying that thou shalt not interfere with the line items in the budgets of the judges. It's very clear. I had my hand raised the whole time Unfortunately, I couldn't be at the last meeting, and with public comments before the meeting, you can't actually comment on anything after the meeting. Unless you're recognized, then you can't comment during the meeting. So I simply quietly held my hand up for about 4 minutes, was ignored, while y'all literally, as the chairman, chose not to follow the law. It looks like the two post commissioners were trying to follow the law in that case. The third point of law that's in the local legislation is that our budget should have a management guidance narrative. There should be a plan for the county. And again, there are 3 points of law at the last meeting that were ignored, and we do not have a single copy of the local legislation. Now, this has been offered by the citizens before. There are documents going back to literally 1900 at the legislature saying what our local legislation is, and it's not that big a job to do that. So again, we need to have a copy of our local law on our computer that's correct for the citizens. That said, as to old business on the agenda, I'll go back before the management of the county attorney, which certainly should be on today's agenda. It should have been on the last agenda. It was a legitimate item of business for this group. It's not been done. Also, there's a matter of personnel policies. Post 2 commissioner called for that. It was discussed many times. But again, he does not control the agenda, the chairman does. So until we change our form of government, we're not going to get much work done. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to be next? Anyone? Anyone? Public commentary is closed. All right, let's move on to new business. Item number 3, we have a variance for William and Kathleen Steele. And the way we do our variances, we ask if there's anyone in the room that is here either to support or oppose the variance. Is there anyone in here that represents William and Kathleen Steele? This is a variance request out on the old Toccoa Farm area. It is not on a county road, and they're asking to place one corner of the garage 25 feet from the edge of Hardwood Court, which is a private road. I've looked at this and I have no issues with it whatsoever. Commissioner Sosley, do you have any issues?
Don't have a problem with it.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson, anything?
No issues.
Okay. Hearing no objections, I'll make the motion that we approve this variance for William and Kathleen Steele. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Okay, variance is approved. Okay, item number 4, Homeland Security Grant. Mr. Patrick Cook, come up and tell us what you got there, old buddy.
I actually have 2 different requests for this evening, if that's okay. The first one will deal with the Homeland Security grant.
Okay.
This will be for the purchase of the majority of the equipment that we received on the Homeland Security grant. And this is just 3 different quotes we received, and it will be fully reimbursed by the grant. We just need permission to go ahead and purchase the equipment. We did receive 3 different quotes, and we see no reason why we cannot go with the cheapest of the 3. The most expensive is $27,602.57. The next cheapest is $27,323.38. And then the cheapest is $20,526.85. And that is also the more local of the 3 companies also.
Okay. That's the one you recommend.
That's the one we recommend.
Commissioners, you have any questions?
They are qualified to do this, right?
They're all 3 Finwood radios.
Exactly.
Anything, Commissioner Johnson, on this one?
No, looks good to me.
Okay, all right.
Appreciate the low bid.
This is Mountain Communications, Inc.?
Mountain Communications, yes.
Okay, all right. Then I'll make a motion that we approve this offering from Mountain Communications, Inc. for $20,526.85. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Okay. Here, I have I made the motion, I have a second, all in favor? Okay, it's approved.
I do have one more request.
Uh-oh, more money.
You been hanging out with our Thomas?
Well, try not. This one is actually for an add-on to our 911 CAD system. It will allow us to send a message to any cell phone, and we will be able to get the exact GPS coordinates off of that cell phone, and also be able to communicate back and forth with pictures and other data messages back and forth between the cell phones. The add-on, the cost for that add-on is $5,258, and we do have that in the budget. And there also would be recurring maintenance charge for that every year.
Tell us a little bit about some of the advantages and what this does for us by having this system add-on.
The biggest thing would be like when people call in and they're lost on a hiking trail, we'll be able to send them this message. They will give us their exact GPS coordinates instead of trying to search up and down the trails for them. We'll know exactly where they are. Exactly.
You do.
And that's instead of relying on the triangulation off of the cell towers. Much more accurate.
What about safety personnel? This would be something that would be helpful to them if there's an issue?
Certainly. We can send a message to any phone, you know, if they were to get lost or anything, if they can communicate back and forth to dispatch and know exactly where they are. They can also send pictures back to the CAD system. I mean, it's a very nice feature.
What if I don't want you knowing where I'm at?
You don't have to accept the link. It actually sends the link to your phone, and if you don't accept it, then we don't know where you are.
Okay, that's good.
So it's completely user-based. If you don't want us to know where you are, then that's fine.
When would you be able to implement this if we approve it?
Should be about a month or so. It takes some getting everything set up in the system. So it wouldn't take a whole lot of time.
This is just another form of public safety, is that right?
That's it.
That's what we're all about this for.
This is $5,258.
Correct. Well, no, it's based on each occasion. So as soon as you turn off the communication, then you would have to accept it again to be able to continue.
Oh, really? Okay. So if I know I'm gonna get lost, I need to turn it off.
Well, if you know you're gonna get lost, let us know, then we can send you the message, and you can accept it, and then we can find you.
But sometimes I want to get lost.
Okay.
But other times I don't want to know where I'm at. So once you use it once, it's not like a,
Correct. And the charge, if you're correct, the charge is $5,258 for the first year, and then the maintenance for the second year is $4,725, so it does go down slightly.
Okay, will that maintenance amount, will that be an annual maintenance charge?
It will be, which we do have money budgeted.
Right. Is there a limit on how many people you can put on this?
No. It's, for as many as we need.
And it would show up at the 911 center on the new Zerker system. Pinpoint for that. Can you think of any examples in the last year or two where having this would have been a real advantage?
There's several occasions throughout the year where hikers are out on trails, and you know it takes a lot of work to try to figure out exactly where they are. And there was one instance, for example, last year on the Benton State Trail, where if we had been able to pinpoint him, it would have saved about 2 hours in getting to him. And he was actually having a stroke.
Wow, for that.
sounds well worth it.
Yep.
Any more questions or discussions, commissioners? Do I hear a motion that we approve this purchase?
Make a motion.
Okay, do I hear a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor? Is that it, Patrick?
That is all.
No more money for you.
No more money.
You stay away from America.
Yeah.
Good, very good.
All right, item number 5, Public Works Department. Mr. Ratcliffe, please come on down.
Good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon, sir.
Just going to give you guys a little update on what's been taking place out at Public Works. Of course, everybody knows it's in town. We had a pretty bad storm last week. It was more of an ice storm than a snowstorm last week. And with the temperatures being in the low teens, it made it very difficult to clear the road. So there was some snow on the road or ice on the road for a couple of days. We used up to 300 tons of salt and 150 tons of 89 gravel out there. We got stock back up and ready for the next one, so it was a pretty tough storm. On equipment, in the shop there, we installed an additional vehicle lift in the shop because the other one's pretty much tied up by the other departments, it's using that lift, so we put that lift in there before we could get to our stuff and some of the other guys, so we could get some stuff going. We've got 2 pieces of equipment that actually needs an engine out there. I've been putting this off for as long as I can, and it's getting to the point where we really don't have to be thinking about this. And it's something just to think about at this point. If you guys want to pursue it, we can. I got a chipper, it's a 4-cylinder diesel. It's needing an engine for it. It'll be about $6,000 approximately. It could be a little less if we got to do some shopping and see if we can find one. And we've got a number 2 item is an F450 flatbed truck. It's got a 6.0 diesel engine. It had been rebuilt by somebody in the past, and that wasn't too good a deal what happened there. But we need to probably put another motor in that thing. It's from the motor that's in that thing. In general information, part-time guys, they work 28 hours. They're out picking up litter. They do that 28 hours a week. They pick them out, pick up litter. We've been on Astor Road and out in the Mobile area this week picking up. And our sign department, they made and replaced over 400 signs and street signs this past year. So they've turned it on and put some signs up this year. And sort of an update on the salaries. For the year of 2017, there was $500,000 less than the year, this $500,000 less than the year of 2016. So it's a $500,000 decrease in salaries this past year. That's quite a bit of savings to the county. So, and we're still getting the same amount of work done. I feel we're doing pretty good work. So, that's pretty much all I've got. I've got a question. Anything?
Say, what's the cost of each of these signs, Zach?
Well, we did a little bit of a deal on the street signs. There's high intensity. The signs are quite a bit more expensive, and we're making our own signs, so that saves a little bit on those things. If you order them, it's about, from what we make, probably about 3 or 4 times higher than us making. High intensity sign, just the street sign, just the sign itself is about $35 to make. That's what
Over 400 of those this past year.
Yeah.
So he runs into dollars, doesn't he?
Oh, yes, big time. And we've done a little bit different on the sign too. In the past, the signposts were, even I could get up there and break them down, you know. But these guys, I'll put them to minimum, so 7 foot to the bottom of them, and we're having a whole lot less sign stolen. That's taking care of a lot of problems.
Okay.
So we're coming along. We don't have nowhere near the sign stolen.
We've saved us $500,000. Are we getting the initial work done that
I think so.
we did the year before?
Yes.
The amount, you know what I'm saying?
Yes, yeah. Let's put it like this. It's getting done. It may not be done just snap of a finger like it was, but it's getting done. There's no question about it. It's getting done.
I don't hear any complaints out there other than paper, other than that, but I know this road was kept up fairly well.
Yeah. We're doing our very best. We're out here to serve the public. That's what we're doing. Anybody else?
And the litter pickup worth every cent.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a shame how quick our roads get covered up with garbage, but they're worth every penny.
A
And
week's
they
time.
do a good job when they finish with the road. It's
Those guys are good. In a week's time, they'll be right back there. It's not in the cycle. So it's a big deal.
Does that come out your online bid program about selling equipment? You getting that started?
GovDeals.com, yes, so we have that started. I have 4 pieces in there. right now, and there are bids coming in on this 4 pieces. This is sort of experimental, because the guys that told me, he said, you want to be careful not put too many on there at one time, and I can understand why. You got 4 pieces of equipment on there, and there's about a million people trying to ask you a question about it. You get some bites on those things.
Right.
They're definitely bidding on it.
Well, just to reiterate what you've done here, if you go back a year ago, personnel-wise and wages, you cut that in excess of 25%.
Correct.
And you've done it the right way. You stepped the bar up. You asked people to step up and show them some of the positives of what they've got. You've done some reorganization. And quite honestly, I didn't think you could show those kind of results in a year, which you've done. And what I see is more efficiency out there. You've got a plan in your working areas. You're not knee-jerking unless it's something that's a dire emergency. And I think that's been helpful to do that. But from my aspect, what I've seen is just a tremendous improvement out there. And for folks that say you can't shrink government, well, you prove that you can, and improve it. And that's what it takes. You get good people and good qualified people and let them run their departments. And I'm for one well pleased with the results out there this year. Looking forward to great things this year as well.
Thanks, sir.
You gentlemen have anything further on that?
No.
Well, when we go talking about $500,000 saving in salary, everyone should understand how much that means in the big scheme of things.
Correct.
More money that can go into our infrastructure and our roads.
Exactly.
When you start talking about saving $500,000 in salaries, that's several miles of road that can be redone or new roads paved. So
It's rolling back to the people who pay. I mean, it's coming back to the county, the residents of this county.
and it's something I always say, it's something we go out there, you can turn it into something we can go touch.
Exactly.
You know, and to me as a taxpayer, I feel like that's the best value for the buck, is knowing where I can go touch something that the tax dollars pay for. You know, rather than, you know, salaries, I mean, you gotta have people and everything, but to save $500,000 in salaries, I'm glad to see it finally, you know, come true.
Anything else?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, item number 6, Recreation Department, Mr. Eddie O'Neill. How you doing, Eddie?
Good, sir. How are y'all?
Great, great.
Quick update of what's went on. December totals for visitor count at the recreation center. These are just basically folks visit during the day. Is a total of 1,600 people signed in during that month. In the month of December, we also hosted our 3rd annual Christmas class basketball tournament where we had 52 teams compete. We had teams from Lumpkin, Union, Gilmer, Piffians. We had Barrow County, Forsyth, Kennesaw. We had teams from everywhere. Had so many teams we actually had to get permission to use the high school gym from the school board and done that. And that brought in almost $15,000 worth of revenue just with a 3-day basketball tournament. And the kids had a great time. We are currently finishing up basketball. It ends this week. We'll begin prepping teams for District All-Star tournaments, what happened in mid-February. Registration is ongoing or opened up last week for baseball, softball, volleyball, soccer, basically all the spring sports. Registration is open. Summer day camp registration will open up in mid-February as those close. One thing about summer day camp I'd like to get with you guys and let you know what's going on. We've been approached by Faith Presbyterian Church. Those guys have always done what's called a seamless summer food program in the past, and it's a program that feeds needy kids in the county. What they've done in the past is Union County High School prep those meals, and those folks drove from Blue Ridge up to Blairsville, grabbed those meals and brought them back and distributed them through Blue Ridge and down into the McCaysville area. Union County will be shutting down, renovating their kitchen this summer, so they asked us, could we partner with those guys? So what would happen is we go through summer day camp. At the same time we prep the food for the kids that we have, we would also prep the food that they will take out to the needy children. And we've worked with a nutritionist from the high school, Miss Candy Susan, and they've all agreed there's enough capacity in that kitchen to store the food until it's picked up and prepped through us. So, and we would need Ms. Doss to help us a little bit. Any meals unserved have to be paid for, so we would just work out a contract with those guys through the church that we didn't incur any cost of any meals that were prepped and not served, if that makes sense to you, because it's all reimbursed just as we are through state funding right from the start. So we would like to help those guys out if we work the contract out. And with day camp too, we've had an outcry. Basically, before it's been a $35 session, which is 2 weeks. So $35 a parent can bring their child to summer day camp for 2 weeks. We've had an outcry for longer hours. In the past, it's always been a 3 p.m. pickup for the parents to pick the children up. We've asked, a lot of folks, that's tough to get there and pick them up. Could we keep them till 4 or 5 p.m. And we've went back and forth, a lot of the parents, and we would take their fee for the late pickup children from $35. We would add $20 extra to that, so we could pay the staff, the counselors, to stay with those kids. So that would be an increase, but only for those using the extended hours for the day camp pickup for those parents that just can't meet that 3 p.m. Pickup, which would increase our attendance, obviously. It's tough for a lot of working folks to get there. So, let you know of that. And also, and Stan asked me to go over budget discussion, and I've been, when I was appointed director, we started going through the budget for, from that point on. And Robin and I have worked together, we told you before, not everything in every program had a line item in the budget. An example would be summer day camp, where you take 150 kids and you hire a staff of 25 to do that. Those items were just dropped in different spots in the budget. I couldn't tell you everywhere in the past. I don't know. I can't see it. But so what we've done is went in and created line item for line item every program that we have. And what happened a lot in 2017 is we created new programs. We had girls volleyball, we had adult co-ed volleyball, adult basketball. We started an after-school program. All those programs are up and running, but there's no place to put that money. So if we just, as I took over, we just dispersed it and kind of spread it out through programs that were okay to programs that weren't. So you see programs that are over budgeted because we got to have a place to put the line items in these budgets. One of the big things over budget, you look at operating supplies, and we found a lot of waste in there. I found a lot just with janitorial service that was used in the past. Huge fees that we are getting rid of as early as last week, that we paid large amounts of monies for no reason. I don't know why, but those are being taken away also. And also, if you look in things like operation supplies, and I'll go back to the summer food program, if you look in those, you will see a $20,000 came out for food to feed the kids. That money is reimbursed right from the start. So what happens with that program is we get the food, all right, the school system bills us for the food. As soon as right from the start, Robin gets that check, right? She turns around and says it's in, then we turn around and reimburse the school. So you'll see money come out of that is really, it shows up as an expenditure, but it's just a money swap, correct? I mean, a lot of that happens. You'll see the playground equipment in budgets, the $35,000 the Kiwanis Club brought. That's a money swap, but still it comes out of a line item somewhere, so it looks worse than what it is. And you look through the budget, I think the total, we were over about $109,000 or so over budget is recreation. But if you go back and look at revenue, and don't get me wrong, we're not trying to make money off programs. If we can be even provide the kids a great service, that's all we're after. If you look at the revenue brought in through all the counts, the programs, and everything we've done, I think that total revenue is close to $210,000 So we're 109 over, but that revenue is at 208 something. And if you take out all the donations, the revenue coming in through recreation is still $172,400. So it's still, with the revenue, it offsets, and we're able to see that now with the Rec One software. So Robin is able to get all that stuff, and it'll be so much easier now that every program has its own line item, so we can easily go in and see where every program, how it's running, how it's doing from a revenue to an expenditure standpoint, if that makes sense to you.
So basically, what I see here, just to sum it up, you're offering a lot more activity
Yes.
out there than what you've done in the past.
Yes.
And that has increased expenses, but it also has increased the revenue that we're bringing in, that we're tracking.
It does.
And going forward, we'll just be able to manage that better.
Right.
I mean, it's the first year you've been director,
Right.
and you've brought some things to the table, and I've been very much in support of what you've done, because I hear it from the community and from the parents and the old folks, even folks as old as I am, about the good things going on out there. So I have no issue. I just think we as a board will need to do a better job of forecasting what you need in the future, and as you learn more, and we do, we'll be able to do that. But it's obvious that this great increase in activity and programs is also showing additional revenue, which is what we expected.
And it's easy. You can budget, and I'll give you an example, basketball. You can budget, you can guess you're going to have about the same amount of numbers. This year, those numbers went up 15%. Well, 15% in increase in kids is great for the program, but you also, by the time you add the staff, say it adds 30 more basketball games, by the time you officiate all of that, buy the extra uniforms, you can drop $7,000 or $8,000 out of that budget in a heartbeat, but also know that you're going to get that increase in gate fees, concessions, and whatever. But it's kind of a hit or miss, yes, with your participation levels. You never truly know. You just kind of get those program budgets.
Commissioners, y'all have any comments or thoughts on the recreation department?
Well, the key thing is you're taking the time to record all of these expenditures and all the revenues, and I want to thank you for that. So even though as hard as it is to keep them all separate, with the work that you and Robin have done, there is a way to record and to keep record, and it's a lot of headache. But you know, what did you say, $210,000 in revenue?
Almost right.
222,000, I think was the last one I had.
That sounds pretty close.
Yeah. That's a significant increase to what we ever were recording before. So I'm glad that you and Robin are taking the time to go through it, keep it separate. That way you can have a better bearing on what programs work, which ones don't work. But a lot of these things, I mean, in my opinion, with recreation, some of these things we don't have to make money on. We have to provide the service for the kids.
Correct. I agree.
Especially with the two programs you're talking about. They served me when I was young. You know, when I didn't have anyone to keep me during the day, it was, you know, coming to day camp. I mean, probably a lot of us in here went to day camps. It's been a service for this county for a long time. And, Mr. Hill said, it serves a lot of people. So,
but it's easier now that it has its own line item. It's easier than I can look in that small pool instead of one big one and try to pick out through 5,000 transactions. Was the most difficult part of trying to figure it out. Right. So the closer we keep it to each program, the easier it is for everybody to see.
Mr. Sosby, any?
Hearing nothing but good things about the rec department from a lot of people pass through my place of business. A lot of good things. Appreciate the work you're doing.
Thank you.
One of the things we didn't talk about, of course, you have a SPLOST portion. And I've attended some of your board meetings, and just for discussion here in front, I think direction we're going is we've got a separate account for that now. We want to let it grow. We're talking about maybe $250,000 a year is what the rec department will have off of SPLOST. And we want to be very judicious in how we spend that money. And when you have have any kind of projects or something, I think the whole board needs to look at it and have input before we do anything. But you've got an excellent board, recreation board, and they have good ideas, but I think we kind of talked about, you know, just letting that grow for a while and then look for some good opportunities to get a good return for the community on that. What are you gentlemen okay with that kind of thought?
I mean, whatever we wind up using on it needs to be something that's, in other words, you can't, I don't want to see us nickel and dime on a project here and there, whatever we spend it on. It needs to be a cumulative effort of everyone. How's your board participation, everyone?
Board participation is great. We do have a good record. Those guys show up for the most part, and you know, one here and one there, but they're very dedicated and thoughtful. You know, there's a lot of plans and stuff we've discussed. We know we're outgrowing. We have 3 fields and a B-ball field for baseball and girls softball. We know without the use of the city park, there's no way we can keep up with that. So we know there's issues and opportunity in places that we're outgrowing. We had 42 basketball teams. We're blessed to have a 4-court team. 42 teams is all you can do to get those kids and get them practices and host games and do all that stuff. 4 courts is a lot, but 42 teams is you got 325 kids, you know, split out into 42 teams. 4 courts get seat up real quick. So the good thing is we're growing, but we're also buzzing at the seams in certain areas. You know, some of the programs are really large. Basketball, baseball, / softball are 2 of those programs that are huge. So there are needs for sure, among other things, the river parks and lots of stuff.
Anything else, commissioners? No. Eddie, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, item number 7, land development, Miss Marie Woody. How you doing, Marie?
I'm good, how are y'all?
All right.
I don't have much to report other than we sent a letter to the people on the Old Mobile School property. Lynn sent that out. And then myself and Joey Barnes went out and placed one at the property. I have not heard from the property owners, and I've not spoken to Lynn, so I assume she hasn't heard from them either. Any questions on that?
This is the one out next to the church, there by the Old Mobile School. Yeah.
There's a time limit, I believe she had 60 days on there. The scrap tire grant, we have approximately 400 tires that's still on the ground. About half of those are large truck tires. She said she'd get those picked up this week. I was hoping it would be today, but it didn't happen. And we will not have a cleanup in the spring because we've expended our funds for that. So, any questions on that?
Did the flow at the end slow down? I mean, do you feel like we
It did.
collected?
We took over 6,000 tires in, 6,100, somewhere around there. We've had 13 new homes this month. The total for last year was 286. It was up 25 from 2016, and we're about 100 over Gilmer County.
How we doing on condemnations? We still moving forward on some of those that are?
Yes.
Got any questions, Commissioner Sutton?
The garbage you and I spoke with over the phone, I picked up, I think, 3 bags, and there's 3 more there today. Blown off that truck.
3 more?
There's one laying at the, I got 2 of them a while ago, as I went through. One of them's laying at the bridge on Madola, kind of out the bank there. But we've apparently got a new hauler that doesn't cover his garbage, but it's a constant thing now. If anybody goes through there, I mean, it's.
This is Dodge truck. I'll tell you that.
Okay.
I know which one you're talking
I
about.
don't know, I've not seen it, but I do know the garbage is out
It's
the
dark
door. Guys
color.
pick it up and they pile it out for you.
Might as well throw it on the hood and haul it the way it's hauling it.
I was down Avis Street today and I picked up a bag of garbage too, and I went on down to a complaint that I had, and the gentleman said, yeah, there was a garbage truck just went up the road, and he said, I dodged a bag of garbage, and I said, well, I picked it up, so I'm out there.
He's got wooden sideboards, nothing covering it, nothing on the back.
I have not seen him come in at a dump station yet.
Oh, really? He's on
And
Lebanon Road. The only reason I've been putting up fence, he's on Lebanon Road between 11 and 12 every day.
Well,
It's just,
Can we
it's
get a
sad that we have
deputy
to say
to
it,
go
but
out there?
The bags that I've picked up out my end of the woods are heavy bags. You know, I understand some things blow off the truck. That happens to any one of us. I mean, but these are heavy bags of garbage that they're having to tumble off of something.
can we get a deputy to go out there?
I mean, yeah, that's not, that's
Because
what
I-
Got no problem with me on that.
I'm not deputized, I can't run them down, so.
Right.
I thought you had a badge.
I do have a badge, but I've not been to mandate school.
Oh. Well, get John to go with you. He's got a badge somewhere.
Okay.
I'm just joking. I don't know. No, but seriously, I mean, it's because it's every day out Madola Road, there's a heavy bag of garbage. And the ones that I don't pick up, I at least set them out of the road so someone doesn't hit them and knock them everywhere. Because some of them are pretty rancid. But, you know, if whoever this is would just tarp his load, it would stop. So, because it had gotten better since, you know, the last time you went out there and was checking people for tarps. And now all of a sudden, I mean, I don't know who this guy is. I don't know if they bought another truck or something, but whoever it is doesn't know they need to tarp their load.
And all the guys have been very cooperative. There's only been one that kind of gave me a, I don't have to listen to you attitude, you know, but most of the commercial haulers have been really nice, and, you know, I've said, put a tarp on the top, cover it up, strap it down, whatever you need to do.
Right.
And they've made an effort. I've seen the effort, because I pass them on the road too, so.
Well, maybe the folks that are being cooperative and helpful to you, maybe they would be helpful in finding out who this is.
I can talk to some of them.
Yeah,
I'll tell you a good one to start with. I put tires on the truck this afternoon, trash truck for Schuer.
Okay.
It's one of his haulers, I think, he's paying more. And he was telling me who this guy was, but he wouldn't tell me the name. And so,
Yeah, it's not a marked truck or anything. So,
Oh, okay.
I mean, I could tell you if it was a marked truck, it's an unmarked truck.
it is much.
But as, you know, Mr. Ratcliffe was talking about, and I was wanting to talk to about him, I mean, that's most of the garbage they're picking up, it seems to me like, is these bags that are falling off these trucks.
Yeah.
Because it's heavy material, it's not something that blows out the back of someone's truck. So anything we can do to curtail that, I would appreciate it.
we would all appreciate it. Okay. You got anything else? You gentlemen have anything else, Ms. Woody? Mr.
No.
Johnson? Okay, thank you, Ms. Woody. All right, item 8, budget report, Ms. Gasway.
I'm just gonna go over the December 2017 budget report. I just want to, you know, tell you a heads up that all the revenues have not come in, all the expenses have not come in, so this definitely is not final. I wanted to show you that we are about 99% from what's come in, which is really good. There are a few that are over. Again, administration is mostly because of the health insurance costs coming out of the other departments, you know, into administration totally. Hotel motel is up, which is actually a good thing. I've said that before. Means that we're collecting, and for what they budgeted, they expected about $1 million, and we've almost got $250,000 more in collections than what they estimated. So that's a really good thing for the, you know, the county and the chamber. And this is just the graphs. Just kind of gives you an idea of, you know, pieces of where all your money is being These are the ones that, you know, everybody's kind of wanted a point of interest. Recreation, Eddie did say that it's over, but it has generated quite a considerable amount more in revenue for those. And again, that's revenue and donations, you know, reimbursement for the, you know, playground and everything. Doesn't actually show in the expenses because you don't net those. The other departments, even though they're showing really well, you got to remember also that the health insurance costs and retirement, all that's not all in there. You know, because we had to move some of that around. Again, the sheriff's office, it looks like it's over, but if you look at the generated revenue, they had some lease money come in and more than covers, you know, the overage that's showing there. Because they actually did a lease purchase and they're going to pay it over 3 years. But we got all the money to pay for the equipment up front. And I kind of put this down as to be determined. We do not know until I get all the audit adjustments done how we're going to fare for the fund balance for this year. Just from what little I have, you know, done and everything, it looks like we're going to come out very well. At this point, when hopefully I'll have more in probably late February before I'll have any really good numbers yet. You know, because I have to get everything ready for the auditors, make all my adjustments, make sure all the expenses have come in, all the revenues come in, because you still have to record payables and receivables. And that'll go, because we have a policy that we have to do 60 days of anything that comes in that's actually 417 to record. And that's just an audit item. And then, as you can see, with our collections with SPOST, we have considerably increased our collections this year from last year. Just on SPOST alone, it was 4.7 million, and we're at 5.1 million for this year, this past year. Does anybody have any specific questions?
Do you have any predictions on SPOST for 18?
I actually did increase what I thought would be coming in. Not much. I'm very conservative, but I did, you know, increase it just a little bit. And I usually look at the first 3 months to assess that again after I see what's coming in for the first 3 months.
So this is probably the last report that we have to take in consideration, insurance.
Yes, thank goodness.
Thank goodness. So from now on, if you're over, you're over.
Right.
If you're under,
Because
you're
now
under.
it's all been budgeted in the administration already. For 2018, it's going to
So
be
next
administration.
year, administration is bearing all the insurance and everything, so each budget is either, there they are where they are,
Yes.
without having to allow for that.
Exactly.
Correct? All right. Well, good. I'm glad this is the last presentation of that, but it's hard to keep in mind.
It is, it very much is. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions, I don't think, Robin. It is kind of confusing when you have to look at that. That's retirement and insurance. Health insurance was the main items, correct?
Yes.
On what
The
that
retirement
difference
within
was.
there is just that I changed the allocation from what, you know,
Right.
the retirement people told me to do it.
Right. And then on the debt we have, is it 4 more years that we have on the courthouse debt? That's
I
basically
believe so.
what-
Compared to what we were expecting to get.
And I really foresee that not to change. I mean, considering what's been coming in and the new business that we're getting in, new rentals. Any other questions?
Do we know what the generated revenue was the previous year for the fire EMS?
For 2016?
Yes.
No, I don't have that on top of my head.
Okay.
But I do have it for this year. It was over a little over $1 million.
Right. That's
from the
good.
ambulance service,
Yeah.
but, of course, again, I dare say that because I don't have all the receivables booked and all that, so it should be, it could be more, it should be more, probably.
Okay.
Are our collections for EMS staying in line as far as our collections?
Oh,
They're
yeah.
paying versus not paying?
I hadn't looked at it this year to compare it to last year. Amanda hasn't given me those reports yet,
Okay,
but I think so.
okay.
You know, they have to give Stan, you know, anything to write off, to
Right.
sign on. So, and I haven't seen that yet.
Okay.
Going forward, you've got the software in place where we can track things a lot more, as much minutia as you wish.
Yes.
And we haven't had that ability to do that in the past, so.
Not specific reports that I like to do and everything.
So when we have our next report, sometime in February, on just January, we'll be comparing, you know, being able to drill into that and really show real comparisons on every department. If there's something that the commissioners want to look at specifically, we could do that.
I can break that up, yes.
Yeah. So, okay, all right. I don't have any further questions. Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Sotheby? All right, thank you. Okay, item number 9, tax assessors. Ms. Carter, are you speaking tonight, or is someone else speaking?
If you don't care, can Troy Jr. speak?
Well, sure, I don't care.
Right. On the assessors, y'all know recently we lost 2 vehicles due to one being a safety issue and one being completely locked down with the rear end and possible transmission issues, correct? Were y'all aware of that? Well, that happened just in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And the county mechanic had actually pulled or recommended that the 04 Explorer be taken out of service because of that safety issue. So we did, immediately we took somebody out of it because we don't want the county being in any liability issues with that, you know, somebody would get hurt after we've been notified. Hasn't been a price, you know, told to us on how to fix that, but I understand it's something with the frame or the subframe being rusted out. With that being said, I don't know that you can actually put that back together reasonable, get it inspected, have it put back out on the road, you know, and be cost effective. I mean, it's a 2004 Explorer, it's got 190-some thousand miles on it, so it's probably done, you know, anyway. The other vehicle we've got is a 2003 truck that's out of service due to the rear end being locked up the last time it was parked. It's got a bunch of miles on it too. I think y'all were given something in your files today. I don't want to misquote mileage, but it's all on those sheets. It's got a lot of miles on it. We were told by Zach out of the shop that it's going to be somewhere between you know, $3,000 and $6,500 to repair it, whether it be the just the rear end and or if it's going to be transmission replace, you know, complete transmission replacement. So, you know, we kind of looked at the value of that truck. The value of that truck is $3,000 to $3,500. So it's not worth throwing $3,000 at it or $6,500 at it to put it back out on the road. Both of those vehicles, both the vehicles we're just talking about here, were hand-me-down vehicles, you know, for other departments in the county. I think that if you look at the expenditures and so forth that have been done on those vehicles versus the other ones, will show you that hand-me-down vehicles probably aren't the way to go with a, you know, a department that needs vehicles to run. Okay. You know, the vehicles that we got that were the hand-me-downs that have given us the problems, we've spent a lot of money on. I don't have the exact figures. I don't think our office actually has the exact figures readily available for this meeting. But maybe, you know, the county would have that also. And all your figures and all your spreadsheets that you keep up with, probably be able to get all that for us. But those vehicles will probably at or near the end of their life, you know, cycle that we got. And you know, it's important we're actually trying, we've been trying, as you know, over the last 2 budget processes, trying to get an extra vehicle, and we've been turned down both times. Obviously, you don't think you need the extra one, but with these 2 going down and out of service, we're asking if we can get, you know, pretty much immediately get 2 vehicles to replace the 2 that we've dropped, that we're taking out of service. The importance of doing so is, you know, we've got other departments that actually use our vehicles at different times. You know, in bad weather or whatnot. Since our vehicles are 4-wheel drive, the other, you know, the Sheriff's Department, the 911 Center, the ambulance service can reach over and use our vehicles. And at that point, it doesn't cause us a problem, because if they need our vehicles for bad weather, we're not going to be working. You know, our office won't be working. So at that point, you know, you want emergency services to definitely have vehicles out there that you can operate in and not have to worry about being stuck in a ditch or, you know, just sitting dead on the side of the road, like we would. You know, I know, you know, the Board of Commissioners has really worked hard as a team, along with all the other departments, to try and shave budgets here and there to the best of your ability and where you think possible. But I think, you know, where you shaved us on not having vehicles, and if you don't allow us to get 2 more, then it's going to cause us a big issue countywide, and it's going to cost, you know, all the county residents in the future, you know, higher taxes anyway. Because if we can't do our job, we're going to wind up in trouble with the state. If we don't get our job done and do it properly, then we're going to have, you know, we'll be back into the same position we were before with, you know, looking at fines and so forth from the state. The last fine I was aware of was around $130,000 or so. If you look at the 2 vehicles that we need to replace, and 1 more, you're looking at only about half of that cost. So if you don't approve that, you know, then if we get fined next year or the year after, you know, that's just extra money that is going to come out of the county's, you know, pocket for paying fines and so forth. You know, we've looked at different things within our office and our board, discussed different things of new vehicles versus, you know, very slightly used vehicles or hand-me-downs and whatnot. But if you look at the, you know, the past history on the 2 vehicles that were just taken out of service versus the other ones, the newer vehicles definitely have provided better service for less money. If we have new vehicles, you know, with warranties, that takes, you know, out of you know, repair costs, it takes that down to very close to nothing over that warranty period. I think it was a 2008 Explorer that we got. It was new, and it's up to about 109,000 miles. So if you look at that, they're putting about 18,000 miles roughly a year on a vehicle, which is close to what they say the national average is now. So with that, you know, most vehicles have like a 100,000 mile warranty. So you're going to get 5 years, you know, 5 or 6 years out of it, you know, before your warranty's out for mileage, which will hold back, you know, the repair costs that we have to do. And then if you look at the, you know, the longevity of a car that has been maintained like that, we would probably get more, you know, additional years. If we've got a vehicle that you get 5 years coverage out of, you're probably gonna get another 5 years as well. You know, so that's gonna limit the cost of repair costs going out. And we could actually use the money that was being utilized for repair costs to start preparing for the next replacements also. Kind of like in the commercial world where you've got rental properties or something, you have a reserve for replacements. And maybe we can start working on something like that so it's not a major hit when we need more vehicles. You know, it's just, we're at a point that we've got to do something to maintain our ability to work. You know, we've got to meet certain requirements put out to us by the state. You know, that's something else that we have to look at and make sure that we can get there. If our cars are in the shop all the time, you know, we can't get there. And you know, just recently, the bids that I've been seeing coming in, it seems like the shop is outsourcing everything. Maybe, I don't know why that is. It seems like if we got a mechanic shop, the mechanic shop should be able to put a transmission in or over rear end into a vehicle. I don't know. I couldn't do it myself, but I'm sure if somebody calls themselves a shop, should be able to. We shouldn't have to send those out to, you know, dealers to have this stuff done. I don't know.
You're saying our garage, our public works?
Yeah, I saw a bid
not-
on the truck that came, I think it's from Bill Holt, Chevrolet, to have it done there at the shop versus, you know, dropping the rear end into our shop. You know, doing the work ourselves with our mechanics versus sending it to a dealership, you know, when it's way out here. It seems like it costs more to take it to the shop, to the dealership than it would be to our own shop.
I don't think we can do everything out there. Zach, I mean, you want to comment on that?
Sure, that was just a quote. We was getting you an official quote for what we were doing.
Okay, okay. I mean, I'm not trying to throw you under the bus, but, you know, I'm just, that observation is not one of you. So, but like I said, you know, my argument here, number one, you know, I'd like to, you know, have the board consider getting us 3 vehicles so we can do our jobs. But with the 2 being taken out of service, we really need to have those replaced, if nothing else. Just quickly, we got 2 quotes, one for a Jeep Wrangler, and my understanding was that was a base model, stripped down, you know, basically just 4-wheel drive Jeep Wrangler. The quote on it was like $30,000. I think it's too high. The only reason we looked at Jeep Wranglers was because they're small, they're maneuverable in these areas that we get into. Gilmer County actually uses those. But then I also looked at the Ford Escape because I heard a lot of the, you know, people in the department, you know, in the tax assessor's office saying that, you know, they like that vehicle. I talked with North Georgia Ford, and they ran a government bid out on it, and we could not get the base model in that vehicle. If you go back and look, you'll find the same thing for the 4-wheel drive. You got to go to, I think it's the SE model, and that bid came out at like 22,000, 21 or 22 and change. So, you know, I think, you know, from the board's perspective, we're looking at, you know, $45,000 for 2 vehicles, you know, a little over 21 or $22,000 per vehicle if we get them. And that's where I was saying earlier with if we got into a position where we didn't get work done and ended up with the same type of fine that we were looking at the last time, you're still far under that even if we get 3 vehicles. I listened to the fact of our total budget, if I heard correctly, for the county was increased, you know, by, I think it's 25%, you know, is what we brought in more. I think that's what Ms. Robin was talking about when she had her charts up, unless I misread that. So it seems like, you know, the county has saved money here and there. Y'all you know, I commend you on that. But it also looks like we had monies that weren't expected that have come in. You know, so it's not like we're asking for something that's going to be a burden, you know, to the taxpayers. Whereas, you know, if we got fined, it could very well be a burden to the taxpayers. You know, it's all about public service. Is that not correct, Mr. Sutherland? Is that what you said earlier? It's all about public service?
Safety, what I'm about.
Public service, public safety, it's all the same, you know, pretty much, as far as trying to do the right thing. I think Mr. Johnson said, you know, best value for the buck. And that's what we're asking for, you know, with the new vehicles versus used or hand-me-downs. Mr. Helton said, right people in place will shrink government. Well, I say the right equipment will help the government out without getting in trouble.
Okay, I want to correct you on something.
Go ahead.
You talk about the budget being cut. Your department, the tax assessor, spent actual expenditures last year, $794,000. And the budget we approved for this year was $848,000. So that's about $54,000 we approved this year, more than what you
The
spent
cut that I was talking about, sir,
Excuse me.
was
Let me
the
finish.
vehicles.
Excuse me, let me finish. What I'm talking about is what you actually spent, and we're giving you more money this year than what you spent last year. And one of the issues I have when I start looking at invoices that come through at the end of the year, back in, let's go back to December, we had $2,800 for chairs, okay? Who approved that?
The board did.
Okay.
Because we needed chairs.
Needed
We wanted to
chairs.
sit
So
in the hall.
nobody could sit at chairs during the whole year, it had to wait till December.
Well, you know, when do you want us to do it? Do it at the
It
start
should
of the
be
year?
done during the year. It should be done at appropriate times, not at the end of the year.
Well,
And then-
we as a board, you know, we try and prioritize things that when it's needed, you know, we try and look at what is needed and what's coming up.
Yeah.
You know, when we have other things that were coming out, we didn't have all the facts together on the mapping increases and stuff like that, we had to hold off. I mean, we were wanting to get these things, but we had other things that were in the mix that weren't coming, you know, clear yet at that point.
But what I don't understand is, well, we had purchases for chairs, we had purchases for laser measures, which you may need, and computers, $3,500. There were, from about mid to late November to December, there was something like $10,000 spent on things that could have been, if you needed them, why did it wait till the end of the year?
Some of those things like computers and stuff, if I'm not mistaken, those are recurring costs that will come up at the same time. And those things were budgeted for, and then some of the things are released in a timely manner. You're not going to pay for something, you know, in December, or I mean in January or February that's not coming due until December. You know, so some of those things, you can make the argument that it looks like, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're saying we wasted money.
It looks like you spent a lot of money at the end of the year, and I just want an explanation why that was.
And that's the explanation, is the fact that when you prioritize things, you know, like that, you put things off until you know you're gonna have the money. When you've got other things out there that you're not sure exactly what the money is, because, you know, the last thing you really wanna do is come back to a board and say, hey, we messed up, we don't have the money we needed. And then we get the same talk, well, you know, you tell us we're fools. You know, we should have done a better job budgeting, you know, if we come to you and tell you we need chairs, you know. The folks in that office, you know, they bust their tails every day, you know, to try and keep our tax base down, you know. And I didn't even touch on the fact of, you know, the new construction that went out. You know, our office generates quite a bit of money, you know, based on the values. So you take a raw piece of land that's $75,000, put a $400,000 house on it, the tax base just went up. You know, so it's not like that we're sitting back being a thorn in your side and asking for money that we haven't, in a sense, helped kind of generate. And, you know, anybody that's outside or in this room that thinks they can, you know, that it's just throw some numbers together, It's not. I mean, even in my line of work, outside of the tax assessor's office, I'm a fee appraiser. Fee appraisers actually have a much easier job than what the tax assessors do, because of the fact the way they have to do their day-to-day business and, you know, dig around and get their sales and have their ratios and quotas done. When I do a report, I'm done. Well, they get a value a year down the road, the thing sells, it may blow their whole ratio. And that's where, you know, that's where we've got to keep them in line with the ratio. You've got to keep those together so the state doesn't step in. And in order to do that, the folks have to have the proper equipment.
So what is the spending limit that your board has? I mean, if you can approve chairs, computers, but you can't approve a car, what internally? And I'm asking because I don't know. What you guys?
I forget. I don't have that in my mind right now. I've been on the board for.
So are you the
About
spokesman,
6
the
months.
chairman? I mean, what are you acting as now? Are you-
I'm just acting as a spokesman for the tax assessor board.
Okay. So you're the spokesman for the tax assessor?
Yes. The chairman is still Lane.
Oh, all right.
The
I'm
chief
just
appraiser
wondering.
is Dawn. That's why Dawn asked if I could talk, because I wasn't listed on the agenda. But we just felt like, you know, a little change, you know, somebody that comes from the appraisal side also could help maybe, you know, help y'all understand our need for it. But to answer your question, Mr. Halton, I don't remember what that spending limit is before we have to all vote and so forth. But I know with some of the things that you got on there, we can go back to our minutes and we can prove where we voted as a board for those. So,
Does the chairman know how much the spending limit is?
I don't know, ask him.
No, I do not.
There has never been a spending limit.
I can't hear you, Don. Please speak louder.
There has never been a spending limit ever told to us as far as I've been in the administration. We know that when we went and purchased a vehicle in the past.
I don't think they're
that-
talking about just vehicles, they're talking about anything.
Yeah,
Pencil,
we-
pens, chairs,
yeah.
computers.
But you always run it by the board. She always runs it by the board and gets
I
all
have
approved.
a spending limit, but they don't, not that we've been told of.
I don't, you know, I've stated our case the best that I think that I can to try and, you know, allow y'all to understand where we're at as far as the vehicle or vehicles, and, you know, kind of trying to get it across to the importance of even that extra vehicle, because we've got people that can't do things. If we've got somebody going to school, you know, that takes one vehicle out, you gotta, you know, switch around, and right now, we're really hurting.
Okay, and you're using one car from land development, right?
Yes, sir.
Is that,
Yes,
is
they
that
were
vehicle
gracious
adequate?
enough to let us use that.
Is it adequate for what you need? Is that vehicle okay?
I would say not,
Oh,
because
wow.
we don't know what condition the vehicle is actually in, and I think that we have to put some money in it to.
Well,
get it going.
we're borrowing currently Marie's that she's using daily. So if Marie needs it, we have to give the keys
Yeah,
back to
right.
Marie. And so we have to bounce it back.
Well, we
and
have
forth
two
daily.
cars in land development, correct, Marie?
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
And you've got one you're keeping for yourself. You don't need two cars in land development, do you?
No.
No. So I don't have an issue with a good vehicle, if one of those is a good vehicle, being transferred to tax assessors. What do you think, gentlemen?
So there's one.
Yeah.
There's one.
I don't think it's actually running right now.
Clear that out. I'm not gonna be a part of giving y'all a reason to fail. Okay? And that's kind of what's been thrown at me right now. Much to
Actually,
my
yes,
surprise.
that is my intention, to
Well,
let
that's
you
what
know.
you're doing, that's what you
To
got
let you
across
know
to me, much to my
that
surprise,
if we
but-
don't have the equipment,
Oh, well, I
then we
understand-
can't
I
do the
understand
job.
you need the equipment, but the
and then
car
when we
issue-
fail, the county
But surely
fails.
to goodness, here's my thoughts on the matter. You're talking about a fine.
Mhm.
Before this Board of Assessors, the budget was, I think, $700,000 a year. I would have to look it up.
Right,
All right, we're spending an extra $300,000 a
Exactly.
year right now.
exactly.
Okay, and y'all are still saying we're gonna fail.
I'm not saying that we're going to fail unless we don't have the proper equipment.
So
And that's why
actually
you all,
paying
that's why you all had to
$180,000.
put another
I'm not gonna-
$300,000 a year into the budget, is to correct the problems that were going on before. That's why. And I'll tell you something else, that with the numbers that are mandated by the state, we're actually almost one appraiser short. If you do the math, the requirements are that each appraiser can only do 2,500 to 3,500 parcels. Well, we've got 27,000 and a few more. So if you do the math, that comes up to like 7.7 appraisers. Well, we've got 9, okay? 2 of which do the personal property. So that leaves us 7 to do real property. We're really almost getting to that point where we're one, short there. But we're not asking for an additional person because we are handling that right now. And you all have been gracious enough to give us the extra money needed. But what we're saying is, as long as, we have the ability to do that job, which is vehicles, and we can sit up here and beat it to death all night. We can go out on camels for that matter. But it's not going to get done efficiently. We can get this car from wherever, whichever department, and if we've got to put it in the shop every few weeks, then that hinders us as well. If you get a good quality used vehicle, we've all shopped vehicles. We know that a good quality used vehicle, you're going to pay almost as much as you will for a new vehicle. In order to get a warranty, which would save us in the long run, then, that's a benefit, to us.
I want you to realize though, and I know you're a newer appointment, hadn't been there. Cars have been an issue in this office for a very long time.
And I can understand.
I mean, cars have been an issue getting purchased without the board knowing. Cars have been an issue in this office almost since I sat here. Okay. Cars have been an issue in this office.
Cars are an issue in every.
They are,
in every office.
but it really shouldn't be. And I've made my point clear over the past 3 years how I feel about it. I don't want tax assessors driving new vehicles. I don't want them going to people's homes driving nicer vehicles and those people paying taxes driving. That's just how I feel. That's my opinion.
And that's why we look at
never leave the county
stripped down models.
They
But
never leave the
unfortunately, with the
county
Ford,
limits.
we can't.
These vehicles, none of them leave Fannin County.
They actually do. We drive them to school.
Right. Well, see, I have to drive my own personal vehicles when I go to school, so I don't know the benefits that all y'all are seeing there. Which is part of the $300,000 extra dollars that we're spending right now that we didn't used to spend when we faced a $180,000 fine. So now we're spending $300,000 more, and we're still looking at paying a $180,000 fine, spending $300,000 more. See, that's hard for me to calculate.
Oh, it is hard to show. And, I understand the fact that from your perspective up here being the bank, so to speak, that, well, I throw this money out here to correct this problem. And in the normal world, you can throw money out to fix a problem and then you can reel it back in. But in this case, you really can't. You can cut papers and pens and pencils and everything else out of there, and chairs, we'll sit on boxes. But if you don't have reliable transportation, and it's been proven that the hand-me-downs are not reliable,
So we found one car.
if it's reliable, I don't know. I don't know the vehicle. And we'll be willing to, we can't come up here and demand that you all do something, because without y'all's permission, we can't do anything.
Well, let me, I've told you this before, and, I haven't made a secret of it, and what my issues are. We're elected to look after the tax dollars of the citizens, and we're going to miss things, there's things we're going to make mistakes on, but I don't back down from anybody about challenging them about money being spent. That's what I was elected to do. And when you look at our county budget, this last year was rounded off $1,020,000. That's Fannin County's 2017 fiscal budget. And I like to compare different areas, different counties. And I looked into this very, very closely. Gilmer County was also under consent order. Their budget was $812,000.
There's
So we're
a lounge
25%.
down there.
Well, that's not the kind of comment you need to be making about people.
Well,
like
I
that.
mean, I've had personal experience
Well,
with that
let
tax
me
office.
finish before we start calling names. Pickens County, their budget was $578,000. Union County, $318,000. So they can't all be clowns.
I can't speak for Pickens or anywhere else, but LJ or Gilmer County, yes, I can. When you go down there and you present them facts, and then they sit there and try and lie to you about it and say,
Well, we're
let
not,
me see
we're
that,
not
and then
here
they
to
pull it away and
discuss.
throw it in the garbage
We're
can.
not here to discuss, we're talking about finances and how this compares to other counties. And when we look at what you actually spent in the tax assessor's department last year, okay? And then we'll be fair, we'll add back in the things that went to administration to make it there, but an apples to apples comparison, you got a budget of $1 million, almost $1,020,000, and you spent $794,000, rounded off to $900 with the insurance. So that was over $100,000 under. Great job, but why would this Board of Commissioners be attacked for saying that we're cutting you and draining you when we've actually approved $54,000 more than you spent last year? There has to be some, we're not here we don't need an antagonistic relationship with the tax assessor.
Agreed.
We need realism. And numbers, we're trying to give you actual numbers, and if you've got an issue with a vehicle, I'm receptive to listening to that. But I really don't want to hear that we have cut and done drastic things that's going to put you upside down when we're giving you more money this year than what you spent last year.
Okay, you're correct on that, but let me go back and correct the misunderstanding. The only cut that I made comment to was the cut from not giving us the vehicle we were asking for, and now we're down 2 additional from what we were asking for. I wasn't commenting and saying you cut our whole budget. So
vehicles
if I put that out, you know,
vehicles are the problem, and we found one.
We got one, we need one more.
And I'm
We
in
need
favor
two.
I'm in favor of
We
giving
need
them
two
a
more.
vehicle, but I will never be in favor of buying a new vehicle
Okay,
for a
why
tax
don't-
assessor to ride.
why don't we do something like we
hang on
did
just
with
a second.
Dawn?
Excuse me, let us talk here just a minute. Why don't we just come up with a number? Can't we agree on a number, what we'll spend on the vehicle? Or approve the vehicle? What do you guys want to do? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the number he gave about you're saying a new vehicle was $22,000?
On a government contract, yes, sir. But now you and I can't go out and touch that. You might as well tap on about 20.
Now, I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about getting y'all vehicles.
Yeah.
Because I do not want to come up in a year or two and it be, if we'd had these vehicles, we'd be in compliance.
Right, I got you. And now let me ask you this, do you feel the need for the cars to be under warranty?
If you'll hang on just a second, let us, three of us talk just a little bit here, we might get somewhere. I'm okay with buying another vehicle, but we need to agree on, I'm with you, I don't think we need to buy something brand new. I think your point about what you said about pulling up to a home with a real nice vehicle, that doesn't set well. And it does set well with me, apparently not with you either. And I'm in agreement with you. What do you think, Commissioner Sutherland?
No, I'm not in favor of a new vehicle.
And so what do you gentlemen think we ought to do as far as, I'm okay with getting another vehicle. We just got, from my point, to decide how much or what kind of vehicle. What do you gentlemen think? I mean, we need to set just like a dollar limit or let them come up with 2 or 3 vehicles and present them to us.
Yeah, just like we've always done. I mean, that's why I don't understand why, I mean, usually y'all got bids on vehicles and showed them to us, and that's how we.
The last,
Didn't really have time this time.
the last time I was told not to give the bids, I wasn't allowed to, so I didn't know if y'all wanted me to. I'll be glad to put if we buy used, you know, we don't have to bid. I think the last vehicle that we purchased had 4,000 miles on it. I think I got it for $19,900. It was a great deal. It had still warranty. It worked out great. You know, if you want us to kind of look along that line, just let me know.
So, are you either the two of you in favor with $20,000? That one was
No more than
19,900.
that. No more than that.
I mean,
What do you
because
think?
I think we can buy 2 $20,000 vehicles for the price of one new one, like we were talking about at 30. And then everybody's happy. Then you're able to do your job, okay? And in 2 years, if something goes wrong, it's not going to be the Board of Commissioners' fault.
Exactly. Exactly.
I I mean, I didn't wanna spend $40,000, and I don't wanna spend $40,000, but all I'm saying is, my feelings are, I don't wanna be the reason somebody fails and it gets thrown back in my lap, but I also don't want to attack people who tells me what my property's worth driving new vehicles. And I've been clear about that for 3 years, and I hope people understand why I feel that way.
The only thing, Earl, I was getting at as far as a new vehicle, and I hope the board understands. I mean, I was looking at the new vehicle for the warranty purpose,
I
not.
understand that.
I mean,
And
and
I
these
think-
folks
I
that
think
work
we
there,
all
they
are.
don't care, they don't care about what they drive, you know, up to a property. They, you know, it could be a piece of garbage.
So
You
we're
know, they're gonna go, but
do you feel
they need
one
to have
or
it.
2 for 40?
Well, I'm thinking if the one, we need to check out the one vehicle that they're using for land development. We've agreed, I think, that if that vehicle is worthy, that we could transfer it to the tax assessors, correct? We all on board with that? So they have one. If that vehicle does not work out, and Zach can tell us what the, can have that reviewed, and if it's not, then we might have to look at 2, but in the price range you're talking about, it's what?
I'm fine with, if you think it's gonna give problems, us having any of these when I get done with these vehicles, I don't wanna hear anything from the tax assessors ever again for my remaining 3 years, okay? So if it's gonna give problems, I would like for us to know it, okay? I never wanna hear about a vehicle in the tax assessor's office ever again. I've heard about it for 3 years, and I don't wanna hear about it for the next 3 years. So if it's not worthy, if you'll let the chairman know, and somehow Karen can let us know, or you want to call us, or however we do this, let's get this vehicle situation straightened out. Because I, for one, am sick of hearing about it.
Well, we can make a decision by the next meeting, if they present us with enough information to make a decision. So that, are you okay with that, gentlemen? You, Commissioner Sotheby?
Okay. If, just so everything's out on the table, are we talking about just the 2 that went down, or are y'all considering that extra vehicle that we've been asking for?
Well, I'm not in favor of an extra vehicle, I can tell you that right now. I'm okay
Even though
with
we've been asking for it the last 2 bucks.
What kind of job did the tax assessors do last year? Would you say they did a good job, poor
I
job?
think they did an excellent job.
With 6 vehicles,
Yeah, you
right?
can throw that in
Right,
my
with
face.
6. So if you did an excellent job last year with 6, you should be able to do an excellent job this year with 6. Wouldn't you agree with that?
So then next budget meeting, or next budget session, we can look at that too. You're not gonna close the door. I know Earl said he didn't wanna hear about vehicles, but if we come to.
I'm for
and we
2
approve-
vehicles total, never hear about it again.
Earl, can I ask you, do you want me to get the information together in the bids, or do you want?
No, I think, Zach's gonna look at the 1 vehicle,
Okay.
correct? Is that's what we decided?
And then,
Deem it worthy or non-unworthy, and move forward from there. Yeah, I just can't, I'm like,
If
But
it's
what
not
I'm
worthy
asking
for the
is-
tax assessors, it's not worthy for land development, so I mean, it's been one of those situations.
If you get the information to us, we can look at it individually through the clerk of court. I mean, the county clerk. So I would just get after it. We've got, how long will it be till our next meeting? A little over 2 weeks. So February the 13th, I believe, is our next board meeting. So, okay. No.
So I think, that would be the way to move forward.
Okay.
Earl, thank you.
Okay, gentlemen, do we need executive session? Nope. Do I hear a motion that we adjourn? Next second, all in favor, meeting's adjourned. Thank you for coming.